Chris, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
We are in a pretty historic setting.
Yeah.
I mean, Philadelphia is an old city, and this building here is 161 years old.
Yeah.
McGillen's old ale house, and I've heard that you've actually been here before.
Apparently, yeah, my wife told me that I was here. Don't have any recollection of that, so it was apparently a really good night.
It was an excellent night at McGillen's. I mean, this is just really incredible for us to be able to have this interview here. We're in the heart of Philadelphia,
Yep. And
this is a city that's ingrained in your DNA. For you, what does it mean to be from Philly?
It's kind of, everything. It's showing, the way I fight and the way I project myself is pretty much a projection of the city. And, for people who don't know anything about Philadelphia, me representing Philadelphia in every way, especially during my fights. We're a hard-nosed city. We're always down to scrap. So, that's just us and that's just me.
Do you feel like when you walk to the Octagon, you are carrying Philadelphia? Do you feel like it's a duty to represent the city?
Absolutely, yeah. It's something that, years ago, Philadelphia wasn't known as an MMA city. Now it is, one of the top MMA cities in the world, in the country. Just with myself, my brother, and then you have everyone, Sean Brady, Paul Felder, all those guys. So it's something that I take pride in. We had Eddie Alvarez for the longest time, and he's since left the UFC, and it's our turn. It's our, the younger generation who grew up watching him. So now I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, and we're really excited for you. I mean, this growth of MMA in the city has been a really beautiful thing, but this community has always been important to you. Yeah. You've served the community as a police officer for 10 years. Your dad's a police officer, a SWAT officer. Growing up in a household like that, yeah. I mean, was it always an emphasis on serving those in your community?
Yeah, it was definitely always an option. I seen the type of camaraderie that he had, and he would come home and tell stories about how he's, doing certain things and doing other things, and it's just something that I really enjoyed. It was always an option there. I didn't think that was going to be my first option, but things change, and it's I've been doing that for 10 years now, and I wouldn't change anything.
What was your first option going to be?
My first option was going to be, I was actually trying to be an English teacher. Yeah, so I was going to do like English teacher, and then I was going to do art. And then as my college career kept going, I led towards nursing, and then I was done with nursing. So
these are all paths I would have never expected.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to tell people that, but yeah, those are what, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed like reading, and I wanted to be like the cool like English teacher. I had a really cool English teacher going through high school, so I kind of wanted to emulate that.
Oh my gosh! Well, maybe post-fight career.
Post-fight career.
You can be the cool teacher who can beat the students up if they get out of line, but also like teach them about Chaucer or something.
Definitely.
I love it. So tell me about the decision to join the police academy and what really spawned that.
It was kind of like a little animosity type thing. So my dad, I was in college, my dad was just, pushing. So for me to get him off my back of applying for the police officer job, I just went and applied. I went and applied, did my written test, did my physical test, passed everything, and I didn't hear anything for a full year. So I was like, I guess the police department isn't working out, I'll just focus on school. And then the next thing I know, a full calendar year later, I get a call, I think it was on like a Friday, that I was starting on Monday. And
what?
Yeah, and then they were just like, hey, you gotta go get your uniforms and everything on Monday. And I'm like, all right, I'll be there, cool. And it's been that ever since.
You were still in college?
Yeah.
So was that decision made on the weekend? Like, well,
yeah,
okay.
I'm just gonna be done college. I can always go back to college and just do this.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so what was your dad's reaction at that point?
He always, wanted me to get the education. He made me promise him to get that education and get a degree. I still have to do that, still got to finish that. But yeah, he was super excited that I got the job. Super excited that I was like following in his footsteps. He was just telling me how great of a career it is, and if I wanted to start a family, how it was really good, especially with the benefits and everything like that. And it's worked out really well for me.
Yeah, it certainly has. So at this point, are you training MMA at all?
Yes, because I took my first fight the week before I went into the police academy. So yeah, so like the call I got was like the Friday before I was fighting on like Saturday. And they were like, hey, like you start on Monday, and I called my dad up, he's like, you're not fighting. I was like, I'm fighting. Like I just spent all this time training, I'm 100% fighting. So there was that little animosity there, and then, I won first round rear naked choke, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Oh my gosh! When you started training, when
Yep.
you first walked into a gym,
Yeah.
number one, what got you in the door?
It was kind of just driving past. So I would commute. I was going to Penn State Abington, so I'd commute all the time. It was something that I was driving past the MMA gym. I always had that, I really should do it. I didn't want to go through life with a what if about, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? So finally one day I just, said, I'm doing it. I bought a pair of like sprawl shorts and I walked in and, I've been training ever since.
Were you immediately good?
No. I was like 300 pounds, rolling with like blue belts and purple belts who were 145 pounds, 150 pounds, and they were just smashing me. And I was like, all right, well, I got smashed for a while. And then I finally started to pick some things up.
So what made you keep coming back then if you weren't necessarily a natural in the beginning?
Yeah, I wasn't good, but I liked, I guess, the competition. I was looking for something after high school to continue like that competition drive. And that was something that I fell in love with, and I really, really liked it. So.
I need to know how you balance the police academy and training, because both of those require not just a physical dedication, but also a mental one as well.
Yeah.
So as both of these very independent careers are blossoming, how did you balance them and bring them together?
I kind of just compartmentalize things. So if I'm training, I'm training. I don't think about anything else. The moment I leave the police academy, I'm running out the door trying to get to the gym. And that's just the way that my life's been pretty much for the past 10, 11 years. I've been able to compartmentalize mentally and just focus on the sole task at hand. And it's obviously worked out really well. So.
Yeah, it certainly has.
Yeah.
Have your colleagues and bosses, how are they taking it at this point?
They were okay. The guys that you work with all the time, they're super supportive. Some of the bosses are a little like, what are you doing type thing. So especially when you're trying to get days off. So that's a little bit rough. But at that point in time, people were supportive, so it was good.
What does your dad think about you doing both of them at the same time?
He didn't think it was a good idea. He just didn't want me, to get hurt, and then, because you accrue time with the police department, and if I got hurt outside the job, I would have to use up all that time. And at that point in my career, the police career, I didn't really have a lot of time, so it would kind of be like a rock and a hard place type thing. So he wasn't adamant about me continuing, but I kept doing whatever I wanted to do, and we're here now talking to you. So.
Yeah, we are here now. Now, at what point does Kyle start training?
He started training, I think, 3 months after me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I started strictly in jiu-jitsu, and then he jumped straight into MMA. I think we both did it for 3 or 4 months, our separate things, and then I said I have to do MMA as well. Jumped into MMA, and he jumped into BJJ in the gi. So like he wasn't doing any kind of gi training, anything like that. And then once I jumped ship, he jumped ship too. So we started swapping. So it was good.
How much easier did that make things, especially at the beginning?
Oh, it was awesome just having like a constant training partner there. And he wasn't as lean as he is now, but he was definitely a bigger size, and we were closer in weight back then. So it was really good to have that that good partner with you at all times.
So did him joining the training world, did that kind of help when you go to family dinners? Did it take some of the pressure off you? Like, hey, he's doing it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because people are always like, why are you doing this type thing? And, it's like, we're doing this now. This is something that we both want to do. This is a career path. Obviously, I chose to have the police department. My brother was all in from the beginning. He was all in on fighting, and a lot of people, especially family, didn't get it. Like, why would you do that? You're smart, you can go to college, you do all this, you get a career, and that's what he wanted to do. And, obviously it's worked out really good for both of us, both paths that we chose. In retrospect, would I have chosen to do what he did? Nah, because I really liked being a police officer at the time, so I wouldn't change that.
Yeah, what was your why for doing both? Because you could probably do one for a little while and then the other, vice versa. What was the why in your heart?
The why was the police department was a way to pay the bills and to provide for my family, to make sure that they were taken care of financially, and everything that comes with that. If my wife got sick for whatever reason, she was my girlfriend at the time, fiance at the time, so it was really good that if she ever needed anything, she was still in college, she didn't have health insurance.
Yeah.
So we were kind of married without being married, so it was really good. But yeah, it was just a means of supplying my drive for MMA, so that I didn't have to worry about the bills, I didn't have to worry about other things, and I could focus on training.
Do you remember at what point in your training career, in your police career, where you were fighting and competing and you started to recognize that you could be really good?
No. No. I kind of just, I'm just going to keep plodding along, and I don't tend to think too far ahead on anything. I honestly didn't think I was going to get the call to the UFC or the Contender Series or anything like that. I didn't think I was going to make this a career without winning a local regional belt, and I had a chance to do that. I lost it, and I kind of like really thought that this was it. Like, I didn't want to, if I wasn't going to be able to make the jump to the UFC or the next level, I didn't want to continue to do this. Didn't want to continue to put my wife through the stress, my family. We were starting a family at the time. I didn't, my son was born, I think it was 3 weeks before my title fight.
Wow.
So I was in the hospital with my wife leading up to the title fight, and I'm going back and forth between that and trying to train. And I holding my son, I was like, I can't be doing this to my family. So if this isn't it, this isn't it. So
when you lost that fight,
yeah,
I think a lot of people probably would have ended the journey there.
Yeah.
What kept you moving forward?
My son, actually. My son and help from my brother. If I quit at that time, I thought that, I couldn't be able to look at my son in the eye and say that. Actually, I truly tried. Throughout this life, to pass on to my son, if you're going to do something, give it 100%. And at that point in my career and life, I didn't think that was 100% for me. So, changed everything in the mental performance aspect of my training, and my brother really helped me out with that. And then my career kind of took off after that.
That's really interesting. Talk to me about that mental side, because I think from the outside, looking at someone who competes in MMA, who is a police officer, you're thinking there's no one mentally tougher than you. So what were those changes that were needed?
Less self-doubt, more like belief in yourself and your abilities. You walk into the cage, you always have those doubts. Like, did I train enough? Did I do enough cardio? Did I do this? And, ever since I changed those things in my personal life, there's absolutely no doubt, and there's no question in my mind when I make that walk that there's nothing that whoever I'm facing can do to me that is going to give them the win.
That's really interesting, because preparing for this interview, something I really wanted to ask you was about how you felt walking to the Octagon, because in my mind I'm thinking, well, this has to almost be easier, right, than what you do on a daily basis. Yeah. So what are your thoughts when you walk out to compete?
It's fun. Like, when I fought it, my last fight, it was super fun getting the energy from the crowd and everything like that, and having everyone screaming. It was really good. It was, earlier in my career, it was kind of like a nerve-wracking type thing. But now, as I'm getting more and more fights, and especially in the UFC, I'm really starting to enjoy those little moments of like walking to the cage, or after the fight. It's really good.
As you should enjoy all of those moments. Do you remember at all, especially the early days of your career, were there struggles? Do you remember when the schedule couldn't work, or when you just felt overwhelmed, or was there ever a time? Maybe there wasn't a time like that for you.
No, yeah, there definitely was. Certain things that happen in the city, you really can't. I swore an oath to protect the city, so I have to come down and protect the city. Those things get in the way of training. I sign a fight contract. These things get in the way, and then my coaches are like, "Yo, you got to come into the gym. You got to." So that's really when it was like tough, and those were the other times where I'm just like, I don't know if I can continue to do this as supplementing my MMA drive with the police force. So, those were really the tough times, and I'm glad that I got through them.
And your wife, I'd like to recognize her for potential sainthood in the future, because I don't know how she even handles the stresses of this, but also just the time with her husband, I have to imagine, runs very short sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So if I'm like day work, I'll be working 8 to 4, and then depending on the day, I might go straight to strength and conditioning, and then straight to the gym after that, and then I won't see her until like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So she's definitely a saint, and I really appreciate her for everything that she's done.
Do you ever get, how does day work go? Do you ever get weekends off?
No, so if you're working the line, like a normal regular street cop, you do 2 and 2, so 2 weeks of night work, 2 weeks of day work, and then your days off are rotating. So if you have Saturday, Sunday off, After those 2 weeks, you'll have Friday, Saturday off, and they just work their way back. So it's fun. It's fun to have off Tuesday, Wednesday in the middle of the week when you're the only one off, and no one else is doing anything. You're kind of just sitting at home.
Great.
Yeah, you're like, oh great, Tuesday, Wednesday for 2 weeks, awesome.
But I would imagine that you can catch up on some rest. Much needed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it worked great for the training schedule, but yeah, everything else kind of sucked.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
When you said I swore to protect the city, I saw this switch in you. I saw the seriousness of what that really means to you.
Yeah.
When you look at your past as a police officer and things you've gone through, has there ever been a time where your MMA training has helped in the line?
Yeah, definitely. It's, I'll say this, I've only used the techniques that the Philadelphia Police Department has granted me access to when dealing with certain individuals. But yeah, definitely, not even just like certain like moves and holds and everything like that. It's more of the body mechanics and getting the feel of where someone is going to move. Like if you were locked up with someone and, I have an arm or, I have double underhooks and I'm trying to like pressure them into the wall or something like that so that they can't run away or that they can't grab something or, reach into a waistband or a pocket. That's something that's really helped, just to feel like where people are going to move, where they're shifting their weight and, making those proper adjustments.
Do people recognize you like in reverse when you're working as a cop?
No.
Do they recognize you as a fighter?
I'm really happy about that. Yeah, because I'm really happy about that.
Okay, we'll blur your face for this interview.
Please do. All blur. Yeah.
We'll make sure no one sees it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So at this point in your career, you're training, you're working full time as a police officer. You have a baby, you have a wife, and you're just trying to move forward and potentially reach that goal with the UFC.
Yeah.
What was the phone call like when you got informed they would like you to join the roster?
I didn't think that it was going to be the phone call. I thought that the fight was off. Like I was training for a CFFC title fight. I thought the fight was off. My manager called me 1:30 in the morning when I was getting done work. I said, "Here we go." I said, "I'm driving home." I said, "Here we go. This is some bullshit." Sorry.
No, curse as much as you want.
Perfect. I said, "Yeah, this is some bullshit." But yeah, he goes, "How would you like to fight Parker Porter? On the Stipe DC trilogy card?" I said, "Absolutely." It was the greatest thing. I was up all night. I got home. It was probably 2:15 in the morning. My wife's sleeping upstairs. I go, "You have to get up." And she's freaking out. What's wrong? I go, I just got the call. I'm signing the UFC. And she didn't believe me. We didn't go to sleep till like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. We were just so, running everything through our heads about what was going on. And I had to do a bunch of paperwork with the UFC, so I was trying to get all that done.
Yeah.
So it was definitely crazy.
Wow. And your brother ended up fighting a couple of months before you. He made his debut.
Yeah.
How much did that help the situation for you to feel comfortable joining the roster?
It definitely showed me the inner workings of how the UFC is run, as far as what to expect during fight week. So nothing was like a whirlwind of like, I wish I could have. The older brother in me wished I could have swapped that just so that he could have experienced that. But it was really good to be there for him and for him to make that walk. So it's really something I'm going to cherish forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I need to know, how did Dad react when you said, "Hey, I'm joining the big show"?
Yeah, he was actually really excited for me. saying like finally, like after all these years that it's really paying off, and he was really proud. So it was really good.
What about your colleagues?
I think they were more excited than I was. Especially my partner Jay was super excited. He I told him. He kind of like jumped up on top of me, gave me a hug and everything like that, so it was really good.
So as you're preparing for your UFC debut, you are still working as a Philadelphia police officer. How did you stay focused in those two things? I know you said you're good at compartmentalizing, but I mean, that's a different level. Your UFC debut is something that's very hard to ignore.
Yeah, and what I think happened was it was such a short notice call. It didn't have time to really sink in. I was already preparing for a fight, so I kind of just like tricked myself into like, hey, listen, we're just fighting. It's nothing. Don't get don't get all starstruck and with the big lights and everything like that. So I kind of just did that, and it worked out really well.
Yeah,
so
it certainly did.
Yeah.
You have had 4 UFC appearances,
Yep.
4 wins, all finishes.
Yep.
What is the secret?
I don't know. I just like putting my hands on people, and obviously I have heavy hands, and people can't stand up to it. So
yeah,
it's really good.
Your last camp, when we spoke to you in the lead up, you had mentioned that you were able to kind of manipulate your schedule a bit so that you could have more time to rest, more time to train. And it seemed to really make a difference in both your physical and mental approach to the fight. I mean, going into that last one at UFC 266, how did you really feel?
I felt like that's how I should have felt these past 10 years. If I can feel like that for the rest of my career, no one's going to be able to touch me.
were you able to then make decisions moving forward that could help that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 4-0 in the UFC, all finishes, getting a main event spot. It's really sinking in that my time at the police department is done. So I'm really I don't know how I feel about that. It's like, I've been here for 10 plus years, and then all of a sudden I get this opportunity to leave the UFC and do what I want, and I'm not going to miss the job. I'm going to miss the people I work with the most, and I think that's with any job, but really with the police department, because I rely on everyone and they rely on me, and I'm going to miss that like brotherhood, that camaraderie. So yeah.
Yeah, you guys put your lives on the line to not just protect the city, but also its citizens and one another. So when you gave them the news, or if you've delivered that yet, that maybe you won't be returning to the line of duty, in the future, how was that received?
My supervisor, he's really excited for me and everything like that. Obviously, some people are going to be, upset that I'm leaving, but it's something that I've been working for the past 10 years, so everyone's pretty much really excited for me. So I'm really happy for that.
Yeah, as you should be. I mean, going into this fight now, you have a main event, December 18th, the last card of 2021.
Yeah.
After your last fight where you had that second round finish over Shamil, they offered you Derrick Lewis. Yeah. This is such an intriguing matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the top 10 now, first of all. That's a huge accomplishment, and certainly in just 4 fights in the UFC. But when they tell you we'd like you to main event, it means something different, right?
Definitely, yeah. That's kind of like they have faith in you, that that people like you, people want to obviously watch you fight. So it's a really good confidence booster, but it's also like, hey, you kind of have to deliver on this, type thing. So I really, I'm just going to go out there and just do what I do for the past 4 fights and hopefully make it 5 in a row.
Yeah, it's all been working out, but when you get a name like Derrick Lewis, who's a former 2-time title contender, I mean, he is a guy with incredible power, he's well known. What's your immediate reaction?
Oh shit. Kind of oh shit, but that's why I'm here. That's why I've been doing this. I want to test myself against the best guys in the world, and I consider Derrick Lewis to be one of the better guys, if not one of the best guys in the world. So that's why I'm here, and this is really exciting for me.
How do you prepare for someone that has the power like Derrick Lewis?
Just try not to get hit in training. He's very good. He's very quick on his feet. Jiu-jitsu apparently doesn't work on him unless you're DC. So, we'll see how the fight goes. But, I'm just going to continue to train with the core group of big guys that I have, my brother included. And then, it's obviously worked for the past 4 fights, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
With that more time to focus on the training, what did you see as the biggest difference in your last camp that you're going to take over into this one?
I thought my cardio was good going into the last camp, but I'm rolling right into this next camp. I think I took a couple days off here and there, and then I'm right back into it. So my cardio is not suffering at all, and it can, especially with a 5-round fight. And I'm going to be able to push a pace on him. And I honestly, don't think he's going to be able to survive. I think that I'm going to be able to touch him up. Whether it's head, legs, body, whatever, I'm going to be able to do, and I'm just going to break him down.
You mentioned the 25 minutes, and that's often something that we hear fighters say they have to start preparing for. But you told me off camera before we started this interview, it's something you've been preparing for.
Yeah, I've been scheduled to fight for CFFC, their heavyweight belt. I think it was 2 or 3 times. The first one I lost. Second one never went through because of the whole pandemic happened, and that was right before. I think it was a week before the fight, everything got shut down. So I was ready to go. I felt great. And then the week before I got the UFC call, I was training for another one. So I know how to prepare, and I know how to train for a 5-round fight. So it's nothing new to me. Other fighters, they freak out. Oh my God, I have to do all this extra stuff. I have a game plan. All my team has a game plan. My strength and conditioning coach, he knows exactly what he's doing, Rich Bowler. And we're going to make this, a constant thing, because after I beat Derrick Lewis, there's, it's just going to be main events from here on out.
Absolutely. So. This will be your 5th UFC fight, but for 4 of those fights, you will have had 0 to very little of a crowd. Yeah. But UFC 266, you had a sold-out T-Mobile Arena. Now that you've kind of had both experiences, I mean, how would you weigh them both, and which one do you prefer?
266. I love the crowd. The crowd was the greatest thing. I thought I got excited and hyped when Bruce Buffer's announcing my name, and that's what, if you'll notice when I'm fighting, I don't look at him. I just focus on myself, because if not, I get all amped up and I'm just gonna have like a huge adrenaline dump. But walking out in front of that crowd, that was the greatest thing in the world, and I'm like chasing that. I want that again. So after this one, empty Apex, cool. Whenever they're having the next crowd, sign me up, because that was the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, because it is a really special occurrence. But for somebody who began their career in the middle of the pandemic, it's a little bit difficult to have that experience sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's really fun. But it's something that I will gladly cherish, looking back on everything.
Yeah. Now, this fight with Derrick Lewis, it caps off a 2021 that has been really interesting for you and your brother.
Yeah.
I mean, you are one of a very few pairs of siblings that have ever competed inside the UFC Octagon, during the same tenure.
Yeah.
How special is it for you and him to have that bond, to have that not just in the record books, but for each other's memories?
Yeah, it's something that, we've been doing this, forever. I mean, even before we started training, it was always just me and him. Like, it was, growing up, it was me and him hanging out with his friends, me and him hanging out with my friends. So it was always there. I'm really glad that we got to experience this. I mean, even if he got the call and I didn't get the call, I would be totally fine with that. As long as one of us got there, and the big brother in me was wishing that he got there. If I had to choose between him or me, I would gladly give it to him. But I'm really glad that we both got to experience it, and we're making our respective runs in our divisions, and I'm really excited to see what he does coming up in his next fight.
What a good big brother answer.
Well, thank you for that.
But I've got to imagine there's some days in the gym where big brother wants to bully little brother.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's no animosity, but if I can win around on him and he's winning around on me, there's actually, we're going back and forth. Yeah, there's no holding back on, especially if we're both in training camp. There's some good pay-per-view worthy scraps in there, so it's really good.
How do you make sure it stays in the gym, and when you go to dinner afterwards or you're at mom and dad's house, it's different?
We're both professionals in that aspect. Obviously, we're brothers, and certain things do spill out afterwards. But we kind of just, he goes home, I go home. We get ourselves a little time, and then it's kind of just like, all right, it's done. It was a training thing. If I have a problem with him in training and he has a problem with me, we handle it at the gym. We don't handle it at home. So it's kind of like when we're at quote unquote work, we're there. So if anything ever comes up, we handle it then and there, because I'm not the one to to let things linger. Like if we have a problem, we'll handle the problem now. And he's the same way.
You guys are pros, but you're also each other's number one fans, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when he wins or when I win, we're both. If you look at the I'm sure they have the cameras of the cornerman and all that. I'm jumping up and down, he's jumping up and down. It's really good.
And he has to be so proud, as everyone in your family has to be proud, that you've got this number next to your name now. You're in the top 10 of the UFC's heavyweight division. Yeah. Has that sunk in?
No. I mean, I've had the number, and then it's obviously I just beat Shamil, so I just jumped in the rankings, but it's not real. Like, I'm still waiting for it to get woken up, and people be like, it's surreal to think that I get the call, and then this quickly I'm talking to you, main eventing. So it's really crazy, and it's a ride that I'm really enjoying.
Yeah. Enjoy it all, because that's the biggest part of the process, is to be able to have fun with it.
Yeah.
When you look at the heavyweight division and sort of the state of it, and maybe where you lie when it comes to the title contention picture, what do you see?
Two fights. I'll be fighting for the title. Beat Derrick Lewis. I'll have another fight. I don't know who or what is going to happen with the landscape of the heavyweight division. Obviously, Francis and Cyril are fighting, I think, end of January.
Yep.
Once they fight, we'll see who the number one guy is. I might have to go through Stipe. I might have to go through someone else. Doesn't really matter to me. My goal, I've said this in UFC media, interviews before, is that in February of 2022, I will be the number 1 or number 2 contender spot, and that's what I plan on doing.
Wow, you're right on track.
Definitely.
Cop versus firefighter intrigue you at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've obviously been calling for it, so I'm really excited. If the UFC wants to make a lot of money, they should just put that in the T-Mobile Arena, and it'll be half firefighters, half cops, and that's it. So
that could be an interesting lead-up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'll be super fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm pushing for that one, but you have Derrick Lewis in front of you on December 18th. Before I let you go, I just want to get your thoughts on the youth of this division.
Yeah.
For a long time, heavyweight was considered, sort of an older generation's division. It was older fighters, very successful, very talented, but older fighters. Now we have guys like you, Cyril Gahn, Tom Aspinall, who are all coming up and making waves.
Yeah.
What do you think the future of the division looks like?
Those three names. That is the future right there. There's no one else who's coming up that I can see beating me. Tom is a monster in his respective, his side of the division. He's going to run through a bunch of people, and obviously Cyril's at the top. He's fighting Francis, and we're going to be the top three guys for a very long time. And if I have to fight each of those guys 2 or 3 times, I got to fight each of those guys 2 or 3 times. So I'm fine with that. But really, there's no one else in the division that I'm worried about, or I think that Tom or Cyril should be worried about.
You are born and bred in a state that thrives on wrestling and football.
Yep.
World-class athletes from both sports come from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Now, do you think some of those athletes can instead look to MMA after their high school or college athletic careers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. With people like me and my brother, and the other guys like Sean Brady, Paul Felder, obviously Eddie, we're paving the way and showing that it's possible to, if you're a high school wrestler and you don't want to go to college or you don't get a college scholarship, this is an outlet for you, and it's a very successful outlet as long as you want it, want it bad enough. So if people want to do that, then obviously you can do it. Look at me. So
when it comes to December 18th versus Derrick Lewis, what are you looking forward to the most?
Making the walk and then just getting my hand raised at the end. I really don't care how I beat him. I just think I'm going to outwork him, and I really think that he has nothing for me. He's obviously skilled and one of the best guys in the division, but I think he's very one-dimensional in his attacks, and I think that I'll be able to pick him apart, and no disrespect, I think I'll be able to look like really easy. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Excellent. Well, we can't wait. The main event, December 18th in Las Vegas. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for allowing us to come into your historic city of Philadelphia. You represent it well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.